All right, check the mic. Instant reaction. We are live discussing Bills Broncos. The Broncos get the win 33-30 in overtime. They're headed to the AFC Championship, hosting the AFC Championship next week. Incredible back and forth game, Sam. Unfortunately, I don't love how the end comes down to, a whole bunch of calls. We're going to be talking about flags the whole week. It was an incredible back and forth game for both teams. 33-30. What were your thoughts, though? Initial thoughts on Broncos Bills?
Yeah, great game. Back and forth game. Buffalo spent kind of like the story of their season, right? They spent a big chunk of that game trying to give it away. 4 turnovers relatively early, gave Denver like 10 points in the space of 20-something seconds. Really kind of dug themselves a bit of a hole, then did dig themselves out of the hole, took the lead, and then we end up getting Josh Allen set up multiple times actually in the scenario that puts it all on him, right? You get a drive before the end of regulation to go and win the game, doesn't quite win it, gets the tie, sends it to overtime, and then you get the drive in overtime to go win the game again, can't quite do it. And Denver gets the ball back with that kind of weird play, the Brandon Cooks thing. Did he catch it? Did it get taken away for an interception? Ends up effectively being an arm punt. And then Denver gets it done because, as you said, with the addition or with the aid of those couple of pass interference penalties.
So the Broncos, they end up, Bo Nix finishes with 46 pass attempts and 12 carries in this game. They barely handed the ball off at all. I got to look back. I don't think they handed it off since sundown. With the sun was like just peeking in early in the game. They didn't hand it off at all. It was all on Bo Nix. Kind of credit to Bo. He made the huge throw to Marvin Mims to take the lead. I mean, we'll unpack this whole thing in even greater detail tomorrow night when we go live. But Bo Nix made a few big throws. But down the stretch, it was like Denver just said, let's win it. Let's throw some 50-50 balls up there, which, by the way, the ball placement on those 2 pass interference passes, from just like a how well did Bo Nix play standpoint, I thought they were beautiful throws. They were right there. Maybe a little underthrown to Mims. The first pass interference, I'm not sure about. The second one, I think they kind of had to call it with Tre'Davious White because Mims slowed down a little bit. He did a nice job kind of working back through the ball or making White run through him. And then the other controversial call was the interception, Jaquan McMillan. So it's 3rd and 10. Allen throws it down the field. It's in overtime. It is like an arm punt, I think, as you said. But the result's either going to be a catch or an interception because the ball never hit the ground.
Right.
I think it was the right call. And I know it's a really difficult one because Cooks kind of had it, hits the ground, and a lot of people say he had the ball, hits the ground, ball's dead. I saw McMillan in there, right? It wasn't like there was a catch, he was down, and then McMillan goes in and starts to try to take it out. I think he was in there fighting for it, and Cooks just didn't have it long enough. I thought it was a great play by McMillan. I think they got that call right as far as the interception goes.
It's definitely a great play by McMillan. The problem I have with that rule is I think it's a fairly ill-defined, fuzzy line and when we decide that's a catch and when it's not. Because as you said, normally they would call that incomplete, but they can't call it incomplete because it never hit the ground. So you have to decide it's either a catch or it's an interception. It can't be anything else effectively. What I didn't like was Gene Sterator's analysis of it, where he's like, at no point does Brandon Cooks really have possession of that football. I mean, he clearly has possession of the football. He's got it in control, and then he goes to ground, and then the ball gets taken away from him. Now, the decision is, how long did he have possession of the football, and did he have it for long enough, and are we determining that McMillan has taken it away from him before he's, quote-unquote, completed the catch? But you can't claim he didn't have control, because he did until the control was taken away from him. That's my issue with that. Like, I think you can definitely make the argument that, the ball, but the problem is if it's simultaneous possession, it belongs to the offense. If you determine that he had control and he hit the ground and the guy's touching him, that should be down by contact and his ball. It's only not his ball if you decided that it was taken away from him before this sort of amorphous, fuzzy line of, completing the process of the catch through the ground, etc. It's just a weird, fuzzy line that ends up with it being an interception. Either way, I think there's nothing wrong with the call because it is such a fuzzy line. You could basically throw it either way, and it's kind of fine based off how ridiculously close that play is. But it ends up being the play that determines, who has possession in overtime, which at that point had become sudden death effectively, right? So, and that was what, like, it made it an interesting call because Josh Allen and the Bills had already been through like a 3rd and 5, a 3rd and 7. They were getting forced a 3rd down basically every time on that drive. And the 3rd and 10, instead of trying to pick up 3rd and 10, they were like, let's go for everything. Let's just heave. And actually, that ends up being a turnover, ends up costing the possession, which at that point is kind of important, just having possession of the football.
It was a lot. Both teams really going for the win in some of those crunch time situations there. I'll give you a wild stat, Sam. The Bills had 11 drives. Of the 11 drives, 6 were scoring drives and 5 were turnovers. No punts. And these days you get a lot of these no punt. Like, this is the first time a team did this, and didn't punt or whatever. And it's more common these days because teams go for it on 4th downs. Was there even a key 4th down decision or call in this game where somebody went for it? There wasn't even a key 4th down. The Bills either scored or they turned it over on all 11 possessions. No turnover on downs, no punts, nothing. That's wild. That's crazy. That was like the Bills' entire season in a nutshell, isn't it? Right? They're going to score unless they shoot themselves in the foot and turn the ball over. Now, you got to credit the Broncos. I thought they did a good job forcing those turnovers. The worst of all the turnovers was right before the half, right? I have pages of notes here, Sam, but we're only going to talk about the last couple minutes in overtime. But Josh Allen before the half, right? I think he played an excellent game overall, no matter what the turnover numbers say, right? He got strip sacked. That's a tough one. The most in the arm punts interception, 3rd and 10 doesn't matter that it's an interception or incomplete. It really doesn't even matter because they would have punted anyway. So the worst turnover though was right before the half when they had no timeouts, 13 seconds left. Allen scrambles, carrying the ball like a loaf of bread for no reason, right? He's going to go down. They're going to end the half, right? You either heave one, you either take a knee at the end of the half, or you, with no timeouts, you heave it deep, hope for a pass interference, which probably would have worked with this officiating crew, and take your chances. The fact that he just handed the Broncos 3 points before the half to go down 10, that was the most egregious of all of the 6 Bills turnovers.
It was such a weird turnover because he's like carrying it, all out here, knowing there's defenders around him. Like he's sort of actively turning away from one defender, and then the guy chasing him down from behind, Nick Benito, is the guy that ends up getting an arm on his arm, which knocks the ball loose. It was crazy. Like Josh Allen will carry the ball like that in open space all the time. I mean, that's kind of normal. But once he knew there were guys like right around him, it was kind of wild to continue to hold it out like that as if nothing bad could happen.
So from Denver's point of view, again, I was surprised. I mean, I don't want to sit here and criticize the game plan the whole time. They won the game, right? And I know they put up 30 points in regulation. They did get, short fields and they did get turnovers and everything. But I don't want to criticize the game plan, but I am shocked that the running backs had 10 carries. Not even that the Broncos have a great run game. It's just this is the weakness of the Bills. Right. And in it wasn't like the Broncos were playing from behind most of the game. They were up 10 at the half. It wasn't like the game flow was dictating it. I think they were trying to be aggressive on early downs, which is a great thing for the most part to be aggressive. But things just spiraled into, man, this is Bo Nix's game. And look, I thought he made some huge throws in this game. His very first drive should have ended in a touchdown. He threw an absolute dime, and it gets dropped in the end zone. So I don't hate it. Like it worked out, and it works out with, why do you have to run the ball 4 and 5 yards a pop if you could just pick up 25, 30-yard pass interference calls, by throwing the ball down the field, being aggressive. It worked out for Denver. I'm just surprised they didn't try to take advantage of the Bills' run defense. So the pass game, Marvin Mims came up huge. He had the final pass interference where I thought he had a step, had 93 yards and a touchdown on 8 catches.
Yeah, and the touchdown catch was great as well. Great catch, great pass, fantastic execution. Like, I think they absolutely played well enough to win the game. I think if Buffalo had managed it as well, I think you would say they played well enough to win the game as well, despite the turnovers, despite giving the ball away a bunch of times. I think honestly, this is the feel this year. Like none of these teams feel complete. None of these teams feel inevitable. They're all going to make some mistakes in the course of a game. And then it's just like who manages to get out the other side, whose mistakes are going to cost them more. This was obviously the only narrative coming out of this will be Josh Allen. Either he sucks or he's amazing. He lost, so he sucks. But like this was this game, right? It was everybody had chances. You would say Bo Nix and the Broncos made more of their chances late in the game than Josh Allen and the Bills did.
if you're being critical, I mean, if you're evaluating Josh Allen's performance, obviously a ton of big plays, tight window throw to Dalton Kincaid, brought the Bills back from down 2 scores. If you're being critical of Allen, it's not just list the turnovers. It's like specifically what happened on those plays. It's the one before the half. And it's, if you really want to be critical, when they're down 3, right at the end of regulation, they're down 3.
Yeah.
He's got a third down. Was that Kincaid or Knox? I forgot to look back.
Pretty sure it's Kincaid.
I thought it was and Kincaid's awesome, man.
It's a winning
Open
touchdown
on the deep
if he
crosser.
hits it.
If he hits it, it's a catch and probably 2-3 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. It's a big and Allen missed a couple. Like, he missed a couple of those throws. At other times, he had a chance to come back. Like right before the Kincaid touchdown, I think he missed one wide open in the flat and then came back with the touchdown. But that missed touchdown, those would be the ones where you would criticize and say those are the plays he had. Even though he led the game-tying drive, that's the game winner for the Bills if he hits it.
It's crazy to reduce the game to one play like that. You know, when he dropped back 40 times, he had 12 carries or whatever it is. Like, he had so many plays which went in either direction in terms of positive for the team, negatives for the team, and yet that play is genuinely the difference between that's legacy defining. Like, he misses Kincaid by like 6 inches or a foot high. Okay, even if you said like better ideal ball location, you missed it by, let's say, a couple of feet, but 2 feet lower on that play on third down, they score, they probably win the game. Like, that's sending them to an AFC championship game when they had turned the ball over a bunch. Like, that is genuinely changing Josh Allen's legacy based off one pass where he's like 2 foot off target. Like, that's how insane this game is. That old adage of it's a game of inches. I mean, that's it right there. Like, you can do all you want. You can have as many plays in the game, as many dropbacks, as many rushes. Your game comes down to that one throw and you missed it by 2 feet.
That's the one Nick Wright was texting you about this week, right? That's the one he was texting. You go back for, 40 plays, 50 plays that Josh Allen was involved, running it, passing it, and he's the big difference for the Bills, obviously, along with James Cook, especially given their receiver injuries and everything. But those are the plays that Nick Wright's talking about, right, in crunch time. I don't know if we're going to remember him missing it, but we're going to know that they lost, and we'd definitely remember if he hit that pass, and the Broncos, if the Bills defeat, they upset, or I think they're the favorite, but they beat the number 1 seed in Denver. So want to make sure we give proper credit to the Broncos before we wrap it up. Seattle's already up 7-0, Sam. I don't even know how it happened. I think it was a defensive score, but we still have tomorrow night. Bo Nix, the Bo Leavers are going to be in here looking for credit. I thought Denver's defense, they gave it up, man. If they weren't turning it over, they gave up a lot in this game, but the Broncos put it all on Bo Nix, and it wasn't pretty in the middle of the game. I thought he was outstanding early. They hit a lull, but when they needed him, go-ahead drive, the pass to Marvin Mims, and say what you want about the pass interference calls. I thought he put the ball right on the hands of his receivers twice. Yeah. Bo Nix made some big runs and throws when he needed to in this game.
Yeah, big runs, as you said, and they were using him the way that the Bills were using Josh Allen. They both pulled out like a designed quarterback run on 3rd and 5 for the Bills, 3rd and 4, I think, for the Broncos. But like, gotta have it play. We're gonna dial up QB run with nobody in the backfield. Like, literally, just you're gonna go get these 4 or 5 yards because you're the guy. Like, you are the offense right now. They were using him exactly the same way as Josh Allen, and honestly, he came up big the same way as Josh Allen did. And he came up big a couple more times, albeit with the aid of the pass interference calls. The second one in particular, there's nothing wrong with that call. Like, is it borderline? If the flag hadn't have come out, it wouldn't have blown my mind. But the flag came out, and you look at it in replay, like, he's there early. He's pulling him down. You kind of have to call that. So I have no problem with that call. And as you said, it's a perfectly well thrown pass. Like, now, you want to get like super, you could argue that Josh Allen's pass on the 3rd down to Cooks, basically the same throw, but Allen's gets intercepted, right? They decide that's an interception. Tre'Davious White doesn't play his as well. He ends up getting flagged for pass interference. And that's a field flipping, game defining outcome that the quarterbacks effectively threw the same ball, and on one of them, the defender played it brilliantly, and the other one, the defender played it slightly badly, and it's the difference between a turnover and actually the ball set up in an almost unmissable spot for the field goal.
The other similar play, by the way, before we wrap it up, the Sunday night game, Bucks and Rams that we talked about, was it Cade Otton had the ball, his knee was down, someone from the Rams just grabs it out of his hands, and
Right.
he had more control. I think he had more control of it on the Sunday night game, and
The
that
other
became a
one,
pick six. And that
yeah,
was
the
what, a
other one,
Packers
yes,
Bears.
the Luke Musgrave thing.
Yes.
And I need to check this out because somebody made this point to me on social media. They basically argued that based off the rules, because remember, they call that incomplete and the ball never hit the ground. And you're like, incomplete is the one thing it can't be because the ball never touches the ground.
Right.
Like it's like this, it's either a catch or it's an incompletion or it's a interception rather. And they called it incomplete. And the logic that somebody was saying is that he went to ground. So at the point where he doesn't complete the catch, it's an incomplete pass. It doesn't matter. Like he's got possession, goes to ground, and then the ball stops being in his possession. At that point, by definition, he didn't survive the ground, so it's incomplete by rule.
Right.
And therefore, it doesn't matter that the guy then took it away from him and claimed interception. Like the play is over at the point where it's an incomplete pass by rule. That would be the argument for this. As far as I understand it, this and the Musgrave play in particular are basically the same play, and they've been called differently.
And if the ball doesn't hit the ground, I can't reconcile anything but
because the rule specifically says that if you go to ground
survive.
and do not complete the catch, it's incomplete. So it effectively doesn't matter that the guy then how it's in like that the guy takes it away. By rule, it is incomplete.
But in my point on this one, I would say that doesn't. It would have been the Bills would have been punting anyway. That was a third and long arm punt, so that probably doesn't affect the game if they went incomplete.
And
letter of the law.
Yeah, and look, I like that interpretation of that rule to me sounds crazy, and that's the first time I'd heard of it. So this could that could be a fringe interpretation of the rules that is not being universally applied. My point being, I think that those two plays are basically the same, and they were called in opposite ways.
All right, man. We'll talk about it a lot more tomorrow night. That's our just instant reaction after a wild one, Bills and Broncos. By the way, I feel like congrats to Broncos fans. You guys have been, great all season and incredible team that you have there in Denver, the way they've, built with Sean Payton and Bo Nix and that defense. I just feel for Bills fans with the whole if not now, when deal. I'm sure they were feeling it too, feeling the pressure. I feel for Bills fans, given that all season, outside of cluster turnovers, it's been the same team. And then in just bunches, the turnovers show up and you blow the games.
It's going to be really, I mean, they're going to be going through it again in terms of narrative. Like it's going to be very, very hard to stay the course if you're Buffalo and not make some kind of significant change because the outside pressure is going to be so big. Like this was your year. If not now, then when. However unfair and ridiculous that narrative is, they had chances to win this game. They didn't get them done. Denver took their chances, albeit aided with the flags. So, the self-evaluation portion now for Buffalo, it's going to be really hard to look at this and not do something major to change.
All right, man, that's it for us, Bills Broncos. We'll be back here tonight. Instant reaction for 49ers Seahawks. Rashid Shaheed already returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. We'll catch the rest of the game. We'll see you in a little bit after Niners